Bread and circuses, are you not entertained? Let me back up. So I'm going to be honest. Showed up at the state capitol, Louisiana state capitol. Really didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. Heard people was coming out here. There's a special session on criminal justice because we elected Jeff Landry. But I feel like this message, while it's geared towards Louisiana and New Orleans and all of this, I really feel like this is an underlying issue. And yeah, I'm putting myself in it because it's been a while, I think, since I've been this real and raw on this app. So let's go back 10 years when I first went viral on this app. And sitting from my car and going off in my car and being in these same spaces. And for the last 10 years, I've been that crazy ass white lady with the blonde hair and green eyes that sit here hooting and hollering from her car, sitting here warning about Donald Trump and fascism and the rise and the potentiality and doing whole historical comparisons long before this man ever becomes president. Then we start talking about the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. And then we have conversations about women's reproductive rights. Well, all throughout all of that, we have conversations about education and their attacks upon education and how I taught social studies and civic engagement and citizenship and all that type of stuff for 10 years of my life. About halfway through my career, my decade-long career, I came to the realization, like, why is it that they don't want our citizenry to be civically engaged? Why don't they want them learning historical thinking skills? Why don't they want them learning geography? Why don't they want them learning all of these things? And then when you start to ask yourself, and when you decide that you're no longer going to be naive and gullible and vulnerable, and you start leaning into the uncomfortability of, you know what, I don't know everything. Like today, honest to God, I don't know everything, but I just got this feeling that because we didn't show up and show out in the election, because they are continuously playing chess, all of this feels very strategized, that they are rushing these bills. It's just the feeling and the vibe in these hallways that I just get. And I didn't last but maybe like 20 minutes sitting in the room. I'm not going to lie. Because the energy is like they're listening, but you can tell like when somebody's listening and they're only listening because they kind of have to. And they're not listening because they have any intention of like, this is just, yeah, I'm listening and it's not going to change my answer type stuff. Like, this is the underlying message, because I made the comment earlier this morning that I wasn't invited there, and I don't need an invite. You want to know why? Because that's my fucking house. And that's the energy that I put out on the internet over these last 10 years. You know, when I was being that crazy lady that was sitting here talking about the Dobbs versus Jackson, about and that we were going to reverse, you know, women's reproductive justice, you know, half a century, right? When we were sitting here, January 6th happened and these white folks were sitting here shimmying up damn drain pipes and sitting here building a gallows on the front lawn, which ironically, our new governor, let me turn this around. Our new governor at this state capitol building right here, Jeff Landry, wants to reinstitute electrocution, which the last one was done in 1991, but wants to reinstitute the death sentences here in New Orleans, in Louisiana, up to and including electrocution, gas, and yes, the favorite weapon of choice on January 6th for our Vice President, Mike Pence, the gallows, bringing back hangings around here. So for perspective, the chess game is putting all these bills, the vibe and feeling is that they're putting all these bills and rushing them all these things on ending all these bills. It is the same shit, just a different toilet. If you want to know what I genuinely feel is going on, it's the same damn story, just a different narrative, because history doesn't repeat. Don't listen to the hype. It just rhymes. So all of this is about, number one, controlling. Watch the educational session. Watch how they rewrite the historical narrative way worse than it always was, which is why geography books that I was teaching, that they were trying to get me to teach kids from, was calling, literally, they would not use the word slavery and they were calling it forced migration throughout the entire textbook. So for perspective, all roads leads to prison, which also ties into the attacks that they're having on women's reproductive rights, because the anatomy of the female oppression is that we create the workers, we produce the soldiers, we produce the prisoners. And it's not about the quality of life of these children, because if they really gave a damn about preventing crime, then they would do the things that would literally lead to the reduction of crime. You know, the things that data, because no criminal in the history of crime is sitting here committing a crime and sitting here worrying about getting, one, caught, two, the consequences. Nobody, it has never served as a viable deterrent to crime. If you suffer your people to be ill-educated and their manners are corrupted from infancy, and then you punish them for having acted upon that which their education first disposed of them, what is to be concluded that you first created criminals only to punish them? That's utopia, Sir Thomas More, because we are living in a dystopian society where the power of the people is more powerful than the people in power, but the people done forgot that because we're too busy playing chess or playing checkers while they're sitting here playing chess behind some bread and circuses. Because one of the other things I've mentioned over this were the people, my own friends within my circle, who I literally had to check during the pandemic because they were clapping behind a $600 stimmy when it, one, could have been two whole damn stacks. Remember that beef between Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump during that time? Could have been two whole stacks, but because you stay asleep like Grandpa Joe did whenever after January 6, 2 weeks later, number one, you got elected because of voter turnout and not because of voter fraud, which we now know and was confirmed in the courts and the recounts that even Donald Trump did, but because of voter turnout and not because voter fraud. And the very first thing that you did, because voting was expanded and people are allowed to vote by mail, so more people voted in this election than ever before. And the first thing sleepy Grandpa Joe did is not protect voting rights. Number one. Number two, 2 weeks later, you took the inauguration. I was in D.C. for the inauguration, and you actually went and thought that you were about to negotiate with domestic terrorists who had literally deadass just conspired with those people who were shimmying up the damn drain pipes and literally beating blue lives within an inch of your life, proving that they always understood the concept of the color or of the phrase Black Lives Matter. But what offended them this whole time was really just the color black. And why they were cutting up so bad? For the very same reason they were upset in 1860 when Abraham Lincoln got elected, because they say it out loud. It's no longer a dog whistle, my beloveds. They're yelling it from a bullhorn and from our state capitals. Literally, they do not care. They will rewrite the narrative. They will be the villains of the story that will continue to write the narrative until the people get sick of the shit and the people say that the power of the people is more powerful than the people in power, and y'all remind them who the fuck they work for. And that's really all I wanted to say. Period. On God, on everything. I don't know how else to really convey that message. I'm going to be honest, because they're going to rush these. They're going to be put on the House, and the next thing you know is going to be law. And make no mistake, they are playing chess. And what I mean is that all this was strategized no different than the election of Jeff Landry, and that election fell on particular dates within Louisiana, like Saints games that were away, or particular homecomings of Southern, like my alma mater, my Southern University. Don't think that none of that was not pre-planned, because they are playing chess. And what's the first thing? They come and create this majority-minority district with a quid pro quo to close the primaries, making it that just much more harder for a third-party candidate to get elected within this two-party dystopian nightmare we have of a political system. But adding into all of that, just because you don't think, and I think I'm going to leave it here for y'all, just because you do not think that this stuff has any effect on you. Bread and circuses is what the Romans used to do. They used to give their citizens the bare scraps to keep them from rioting out there in the streets. The bread and circuses. Y'all love the gladiators. Why y'all think I started this out with, are you not entertained? Are you not done yet? How many more kids are you going to sit here and lose to a 6-foot cellar, 6 feet of dirt before you really entertained? Before you realize that there are advocates out here, literally, I saw them. They're in the room right there. They cannot be the only ones. They are not the only ones, because you have to find a reason. You have to lean into that discomfort. And just because you want to be entertained more than you want to be enlightened does not mean in this game of chess, just because you don't want to invest into that enlightenment and the things that don't hurt me, well, the things that the enlightenment component, because entertainment can be a very valuable healthy tool. I understand it, a healthy distraction. But when you want to be more entertained and you want to be enlightened and you cannot find a balance, the entertainment does not hurt me, but the enlightenment into what is going on out here is literally hurting us all. Our generation and the generations that are literally walking in literally a school field trip to the state capitol. You want the bread and circuses. You can't want all of the progress and want none of the damn struggle. You can't want the rain without the thunder and lightning, the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. Power concedes nothing without the demand. It never did, and it never will, because you find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you will have found the exact measure of injustice and wrong, which will be imposed upon them, and they will continue until they are resisted with either words or blows or with both, because the limits of these tyrants will be prescribed only by the endurance of those whom they oppress. So if they're sitting here playing chess, and just because you could sit here and think that this is all politics and it doesn't affect you and all that, I'm going to tell you here right now, just because you don't know the pieces, you don't know the ways in which they move, you don't know how to achieve checkmate, does not mean that you, me, everybody that you know and love will be sacrificed as a pawn on the board. What you are witnessing in Louisiana, what you are witnessing at your own local communities, what you are witnessing in the United States Congress in every facet, all branches. I would hope that some of you start to act like the branches of justice in this country. Every last one of the legislative, executive, and judicial is on fire, because it is. So when I show up to rally and march and protest, I don't intend to be, a nuisance per se. It was said this weekend when I marched for the Gulf Coast with my brothers and sisters and stood in solidarity with my brothers and sisters in Palestine. It was said then, and I'm going to repeat it to y'all today, because it's true. I don't march and I don't rally and I don't get in my car and I don't hoot and holler all this time. And honest to God, it's literally created a void between my head and my heart, because I don't know what else to say no more that you need to see. We have it. We have the power. The power of the people is more powerful than the people in power. And I'm just wondering when the hell y'all gonna come to reckoning with that fact. I ain't got the answers, and your advocates out here can't do it by themselves. So I suggest y'all start really leaning into the enlightenment side, because we taking L's, but L's can be counted in losses and lessons. Y'all got to make the decision. I love y'all. Teach your life.